Okay. Okay, question 4 is another graph question. Now, they've been very sneaky here. I know the answer to this question without very much work at all. And it's because of this funny curve here and this pointy bit here. Well, I know what it can't be. They've tried to make that look like one of those x cubed graphs that we spoke about earlier. So where you've got x cubed with other numbers on the end. I've made this up, but that's a cubic, and cubics look like this. But cubics are really smooth. And can you see how this is like lumpy here and then it's spiky here? So this is not a cubic. It's not a positive or a negative cubic. So remember we said a negative cubic's one where you've got a minus at the front. So there's loads of graphs we can count out straight away. It's definitely not B, it's definitely not D, and it's definitely not E. Now that leaves us with two options, A or C. Now fortunately for us, they've not given us option E, none of the above. If they'd given us none of the above, we'd have been really struggling to answer this question. But because we've got a choice of two left, these graphs are very, very different. So the thing about square root graphs is you cannot square root negative numbers. So for any square root graph, anything at all, no matter how complicated this is in here, you won't ever get anything below the y-axis. Everything will be up here. So you might end up with crazy mountain things like this, but you're not ever going to get anything down here. Now we do have values below the x-axis, so straight away I know that C is not possible for this question, which means it has to be A. Now you don't have to know anything about log graphs. This is a particularly complicated log graph. But you can end up with negative numbers for log graphs. You can end up with things below the x-axis for log graphs. It's got to be A. I think the graph questions are going to be really difficult for you because without loads of practice, you're just not going to have the experience of all these different types of graphs to get through. But like I said, if there's some little things like the cubics, knowing that you can get rid of all the options with the cubics, so we can get rid of 3 options straight away. Knowing that you can't get negative bits underneath the x-axis for square root graphs, that discounts options for these types of questions. Log graphs, particularly when you've got logs inside, when you've got extra things inside the log graph, not just log x. If you had just log x, I reckon you could learn what that looks like. That's one of these graphs. But when you've got other things in here, that just makes it so much more complicated. I don't think you're going to be able to learn what that graph looks like. I would struggle to draw that graph. I wouldn't necessarily know that was this graph. I just know it's none of the others, which isn't terribly helpful for you. But yeah, that's how I would approach this question.